This is the first of two screencasts on Beowulf. I'm going to be reading through the story for you and answering the questions that begins on page 11 and goes through page 12. So this is actually, like I said in our last screencast, a modified version of the story. Remember, I told you that it was written in Anglo-Saxon or Old English, and it's 3,000 lines long, and so I find that it's a lot easier to understand if we go through Beowulf in this way. So it makes it a lot easier to understand. So when I click enter there, I'm going to go to the start. And I'm just there's going to be some parts of it that I'm going to summarize and skip over because they're just not critical to the main story. And this is one of them. It starts with the funeral of a great man, and he was a king, and the king dies, and that's pretty much that section. So we're going to start with Rothgar's Hall. So again, we'll answer the questions beginning on the second part of page 11 as we go along. So Rothgar's Hall. Skald Scoffing's sons and grandsons ruled after him until Rothgar, his grandson's child, grew to be a man and gained glory in battle. He became leader of the Danish people. Friends and family gathered around him, and the band of his followers grew bigger than ever. Then it came to his mind to build a great mead hall, mightier than ever heard of on earth. So a mead hall is a giant place for celebrations. Mead obviously is a type of alcohol, and so they would gather in these big halls and drink and celebrate different things. Great mead hall, mightier than ever heard of on earth. There he could share with his people, the young and the old, the gifts that God had given him. Craftsmen came from far and wide, from many tribes, to work on the hall, and before long it was finished. Rothgar named the hall Harrowit, and there, as he had promised, he held feasts for his people, gave out gold rings and other gifts. Poets sang to the sound of the harp. The hall roof was high over the heads of the feasters. Harrowit's pointed roof rose far into the sky. So the name of the great mead hall and what it was built for is Harrowit, Heorot, and it was built for celebrations and for gift giving. So Rothgar's people lived well, feasting and laughing in the warm firelight of the hall and never thinking of trouble. Each evening the sounds of their happy talk, the poets singing, and people's laughter floated out from the hall. But someone heard those sounds. The monster Grendel deep down in his dark den out on the moors, and his heart was filled with wickedness and rage. So when night came to Harrowit, Grendel came also. The great shaggy beast burst into the hall and grabbed the warriors where they lay sleeping. 30 men he clawed and killed, carried their bleeding bodies to his own dark home. Night after night it was the same. No one was surprised when the warriors wanted to sleep in the farthest buildings, but still they were not safe. Grendel's hatred did not grow less. He killed Rothgar's people wherever he found them, and for 12 long years Harrowit stood empty. The monster ruled there now. At night, he camped among the broken tables and benches and slashed with his claws and howled his hatred of Rothgar's people. So in that first attack, Grendel killed 30 men. And then the hall lays empty for 12 years. No one comes to the hall to celebrate anymore. It was Grendel's now domain. So Grendel had begun his killing, and he could not stop. The people were afraid. Each one wanted to survive. Rothgar's face was stiff with sorrow. He sat silent, missing his men. A council of the wisest among the Danes met every day to decide what to do. Far away, among the tribe of the Gates, a good man heard of Rothgar's trouble and Grendel's killings. That man was Beowulf, the strongest soldier in the world and nephew of Hygelac, Lord of the Gates. When Beowulf was a child, everyone thought he was lazy and good for nothing. But since he grew up, he had done so many brave and daring deeds that no one talked like that anymore. Beowulf took 14 of the fiercest fighters he could find and ordered a ship to ride the waves. "I will cross the whale road," he said. Remember, that's a kenning. It's a two-word metaphor, whale road meaning the sea. I'll cross the railroad, he said, the whale road, he said, to help Lord Rothgar, who has need of men. Away the ship went over the waves, cutting the seas as the wind pushed her forward. On the second day, the soldiers saw the shining cliffs. The sea journey was over. So the next section on the Watchmen, so they sail over. The journey takes them several months to cross over the sea. They finally get there. There's a watchman standing high on the cliffs. His job obviously is to watch people coming in from the sea and make sure that there's no threat. And so he comes to find out why Beowulf has come, and Beowulf tells him, yeah, I'm here to come and hook your man Rothgar up. I'm gonna take care of this enemy, this beast for you. If you could just take me to him. And the watchman says, of course, let's go. So he takes him along the long march to Harrowit, and the watchman leaves him, and Beowulf enters into the king's hall. So Lord Rothgar sent one of his most trusted men to greet them. Wulfgar was his name, a man both brave and wise. He soon brought Beowulf before Rothgar. Beowulf looked stern in his helmet. His mail coat shone as he marched quickly under Harrowit's roof to where the white-haired lord was sitting. Hail to you, Rothgar. My name is Beowulf, son of Ecgtho. I am Hygelaic's warrior and his kinsman. I have heard that this hall becomes useless to your people after the sun falls below the edge of the sky at evening. Tales of Grendel's attacks have reached me at home in the land of the gates. I have often struggled against my people's enemies in battle. A whole family of giants I once trapped and destroyed. By night, far out at sea, I killed water monsters and put up with great difficulties among the dark waves. Now it is for me alone to sort out the monster Grendel. People say that Grendel does not bother with weapons, and neither shall I. I will beat him with my bare hands or my body's strength. That's an Anglo-Saxon boast. And also the answer to number 3. I will beat him with my bare hands and my body's strength. Rothgar was full of joy. Beowulf, my friend, you have come to us out of loving kindness. Your father began a terrible feud by killing one of the tribe of the Wiflings. Your father's people, the Gates, could not protect him. I was a young man then, and I brought Danish warriors to help the Gates to end the feud. I paid the Wiflings with treasure for the loss of the man's life. Now you can repay me. See how many warriors I have lost. See how my people live in fear. Grendel has brought such terror to our lives. Now sit down to the feast with your men and tell us what you plan to do. So they sit down, they have a feast, everybody drinks. The king's wife comes and gives him a jeweled cup to drink from, and they celebrate. They're having a celebration, and everybody gets up to go to bed, and everybody leaves with just the Gates staying behind in Harrowit. So darkness comes. Beowulf lies down beside his brave men. His soldiers are sure they will not see their country again. Under the mist, the monster creeps towards Harrowit. The soldiers are sleeping, but one man keeps watch without blinking. It's Beowulf. Like a long shadow, Grendel comes gliding. His hairy hands rip the hall door off its hinges. A horrible light glows from his eyes. His heart is joyful when he sees so many sleeping in the hall. A fine feast for him. He must start straight away. He grabs the sleeping soldier near him, snaps his bones, and tears him to pieces with claws and teeth. Grendel stuffs the dead man down in huge mouthfuls, greedily gulping. In no time he has eaten him all, even the hands and feet. Grendel puts out his hand to seize the next sleeping man, but that man's hand comes up to meet him, grasping the monster's hand firmly in such a strong grip that Grendel is afraid. His finger joints are cracking. He has never felt a greater hand grip. He wants to run back to the moors, to hide in the mist, to find his own home. Even so, he cannot get away any quicker, for Beowulf has pinned his arm down. Now they are wrestling fiercely. Beowulf is on his feet, bending the arm backwards, pushing back the monster bit by bit. Benches crash to the ground. Grendel roars with pain and fury. Beowulf's warriors rush to help him, striking with their swords. They will save their leader's life if they can. They do not know at first that no iron weapon can wound that beast. The din of the fight is dreadful to hear. The shrieks of the monster, the shouts of the men. Outside the hall, the Danes hear it and tremble with fear. Up and down, these fierce enemies fight. The hall shakes as if it must fall down. The finely carved tables are knocked over and smashed against the walls as Grendel tries desperately to shake Beowulf off. But Beowulf remembers the words spoken last night, and he holds on tight. A huge wound opens in Grendel's shoulder. The muscles burst apart. His arm is torn away. With a scream, Grendel flees from the hall, leaving his arm. He knows he will die. Strong-hearted Beowulf has given glory in his struggle. He has done what he boasted he would. He has freed the Danes from fear. The great grabbing arm of Grendel, from the shoulder to the claws, he hangs above the doorway of Harrowit as a sign to all who sees it. So, how does he defeat Grendel? Well, he literally wrestles him to death. He wrestles him, holds him down, and rips his arm off. And that's the body part that is actually left behind so that he can, as a sign. So in the morning, a great crowd gathered at Harrowit. People came from far and near to gaze at Grendel's hand hanging there and to wonder at his huge footmarks. Warriors on white horses followed the prints and trail of blood to a dark pool. Its waters were still bubbling and bloody where the monster had dived. Looking for his lair under the waves, he had died for sure. No one was sorry he had done so much harm. On the way back, the horsemen were happy. The horses tossed their manes and raced over the sandy road. Then one man began to make up a poem of what Beowulf had done, putting together just the right words to tell the stories of other famous heroes. And so there was a great feast in celebration that night in Harrowit. The Geats and the Danes sat together on the mead benches, passing the drinking horn around. The hall had been cleaned and the tables and benches mended. Tapestries gleaming with gold thread hung from the walls. Rothgar stood up and spoke. He gave thanks that this day has come. One man has done what all of us could not, he said. Grendel is dead, who did us so much harm. I wish I had the whole of him here to show you, Beowulf replied. He left his arm to get away. My grip was not strong enough to stop him, but it did him no good. He is dead anyway. He will do no more damage to the Danes. Dear Beowulf, you are my son now. I will gladly give you any gift in the world that I can. Your name will live forever. Your deeds have made sure of that. So what did he give him in return? Well, he gave him a battle standard made of gold, a helmet, a mail coat, and a famous fighting sword. 8 horses came trotting into the hall with high-stepping hooves. Their bridles were gold. Their saddle was decorated with jewels and beautifully carved patterns that had belonged to Rothgar himself. Take these, dear Beowulf, and use them well. Beowulf was not shy at such rich gift-giving. He had earned his reward. No one forgot that Grendel in his greed had killed one Geatish man. Rothgar gave gold to take back to Gaetlin for the man's family. Each of Beowulf's men had his gifts, beautifully made things to keep forever and to give to their children. Then the Geats and the Danes sat down gladly to the feast. Harrowit was full of friends. They rejoiced with their hero Beowulf and with Rothgar, their ring-giving lord. There was never a happier time or a finer company with finer company of people. So the 6 things: the battle standard, the helmet, the mail coat, the sword, 8 horses, and jeweled saddles and bridles. Darkness comes. Lord Rothgar and Wealhtheow went to bed a while ago to their bed, but many warriors want to sleep again in the hall as they used to do. They moved the mead benches and put down bedding. They placed their shields at their heads and weapons near their hand. It is no use. One man will pay with his life for that night's rest. For Grendel's mother comes from the moor, sobbing for her son. She is savage with sorrow. She will get revenge. She dashes to the door, screeching when she sees her son's arm hanging there. The soldiers leap up, grabbing their swords. Now they have seen her. She must get out fast. She snatches a man swiftly and runs from the hall. It is a share, Lord Rothgar's most loved man. Harrowit is full of shouts and screams. Blood spatters the floor, but she is gone, and Grendel's hand is gone with her. So Grendel's mom comes. She takes 2 things. She takes Lord Rothgar's most loved man, a share, and she takes Grendel's arm. Okay, we're going to stop there, and we'll pick back up with the next screencast for the conclusion of Beowulf.